In this PowerPoint, I'll be linking ethical and legal issues to multiple scenarios in sport and exercise science. Legal issues are issues that are found within the boundaries of written law. Ethical issues are what people believe are natural to the standard human being, where you should always be respectful of the person you're talking to and not to harm that person. An example of an experiment that has caused ethical and legal issues for the world to see would be Zimbardo's prison study. Participants were gathered and paid per day during the experiment. Participants were split into guards and prisoners. The study was carried out so precisely, like a real prison. Problems started occurring, such as harassment, dehumanizing the prisoners. When the study got too much for the prisoners, there was outbursts of screaming and crying from the prisoners. Prisoners started removing themselves from the study. The study lasted 6 days when it initially was supposed to be lasting 14 days. The test was ethically wrong to put people through hell and cause possible problems in the future, such as physical or mental. What was ethically wrong was prisoners were stripped naked and dehumanized every minute of the day and effectively abused through the 6 days, each day getting progressively worse. The guards showed no respect towards the prisoners and dehumanized and belittled them and making them feel like they're not worth anything. The next slide is examples of ethical and legal issues. Law be carrying out experiments with no qualifications. This can cause discomfort for students and parents, and there could be possible suing if the tests are carried out. The second example would be overly sensitive towards students. This could also cause discomfort to the student, and there could be investigations placed to see the intentions of the coach. Ethical issues, not showing respect. The student could lose respect for the coach and feel not welcome within the group. This could cause a lower self-esteem and shy around other parts of the if the coach was being aggressive towards a student, this could also change the views of the coach by the students, and for the students not to listen to the coach in future or talk about personal issues within sessions. The next slide we'll be going through BASES, which is British Association of Sport and Exercise Science, the Ethics Committee, and competence, consent, confidentiality, and conduct, the 4 C's. BASES is a code of conduct where there are 3 principles put in place on an agreed document. Firstly, all clients have the right to have the highest standards of professionalism, consideration, and respect. Secondly, all testing that is carried out with the utmost integrity. And lastly, the law states that the working practices are safe and clients are safe, so there's no injuries during session. The job of the Ethics Committee is to carry out a large amount of research, which you must carry out 2 things to submit to carry out research with the Research Committee. The 2 things are an ethical clearance and a project proposal form. With these documents, it will give the committee an understanding of what you are trying to achieve and what you are researching. You either get approved or rejected, but either way you'll be given a review on your document so it can either be strengthened and what the weaknesses are so they can be improved so you can use the research you want to do for research in the future. Next is the 4 C's. Competence is how skilled you are at specific parts of research and constructing specific activities and experiments. For example, the administrator will have to make sure they can administer a lactate blood test and have certificates of proof to show parents and participants to show that they can do this test. The next C is consent. You must have a personal consent form for the participant, and if the participant is under 18, they'll need a parental consent with the specific activities that may cause future problems. An example of this would be if you do not have a consent for a student to carry out a risky test and a student gets injured, the parents can then possibly sue the coach or speak to the head of sport, and there could be possible circumstances such as losing their job. Confidentiality is where all research that has been taken must be confidential from the public results unless there is consent of the participant for them to use for the future. An example of confidentiality would be if the folders were stolen or files were lost and the names of the students were on the sheets and their work was publicised to the public. This will breach the confidentiality, and there can also be serious circumstances towards the coach who had filed these results. And the last C is conduct. You must be professional at all times, have an understanding of what your participants want and feel comfortable with. An example of conduct would be if a teacher or coach has sworn at a student, the student could place a complaint and cause discomfort for the coach. The next 5 slides will be scenario based. So within the British gymnastics, it's common that there are ice bath used at the end of a session. There could be possible issues with this. The coach must make sure that ice bath area is safe before use and a risk assessment is taken. So if there is any risk such as slipping over, they can be removed, such as putting towels to keep the floors dry, and then there are no issues with participants slipping over which could cause harm. If the precautions aren't avoided and there is an accident, the participants could sue the coach, and this is also not keeping the participants safe. Scenario 2 is hands-on helping. This is used commonly for getting techniques precise and getting an understanding of how the participants should carry out the right technique. Hands-on helping is used in majority of sports, and it's very helpful in most cases. So it's usually natural for this to happen, but to stop any legal issues, the coach must get personal and parental consent if the participant is young. If the coach does not get consent, it becomes unnatural, and the participant starts to feel uncomfortable around the coach. You'd have to get the parents involved, and there could be possible investigations on the actions of the coach. The student may feel uncomfortable with the coach and cause a problem for the coach by bringing up to the principal or head of sport. This could consequently cause the coach to lose his job and to be investigated if there's a serious. Scenario 3 is an interview on obesity or anorexia. A coach must be respectful to the interviewee when talking in a very touchy subject for many. If the coach starts to make comments towards the student, this is going against ethical issues such as respecting the student and being polite towards the student. This could also cause upset to the student and a loss of self-esteem for the student. This can be avoided by being polite and respectful to the student and get an understanding of the problems and working towards removing the problems in the future by maybe a specific diet plan or training exercise. Scenario 4 is if the coach is conducting a lactate sample experiment. By conducting a lactate sample experiment, the coach must have the medical credentials to partake in this testing. If the coach doesn't, this could cause serious harm to the student and would be illegal to do this if the testing is done wrong. The student would also have the chance to sue the coach as well. The student could also get hurt from the testing by the needle if the tests are carried out incorrectly. For the coach to carry out this experiment, the coach must be qualified and have a document of achievement, and also consent must be taken by both student and parent. This will also affect the results. The results would be unable to be used for research because the coach doesn't know how to correctly administer the test, which given false results and causing the averages to not be. And lastly, scenario 5 is a coach pushing the student during a bleep test. When a coach is pushing a student, this can be okay in majority of circumstances because they want the person to achieve their best they can do. But when there is a reaction from the student saying they cannot physically do this anymore, this can become a problem. The student could consequently be sick or overwork his or her body so they could possibly pull a muscle. This is ethically wrong, pushing a student too much because it's not showing respect for the student and listening to their comments. This could change the views of the students on coach and rebel against a future request, or possibly leave the session and lose participants. The coach could lose the student from the class, and the student may be worried that the coach will push everyone too hard and everyone will feel like they should try as hard as they can when they don't necessarily want to. They just want to enjoy themselves or have a laugh with their friends. But whereas the coach could be too harsh and make people work overly hard and cause upset for students, and which could be replicated onto parents, and parents could have a problem with this. Thank you for listening to my ethics and legal issues PowerPoint.